Hey everybody, this is Erik. It's another great day in recovery and mental health. I have a good friend I've invited to speak with us tonight or today, and I will bring her in right now. This is Sue Peterson, a good friend from I could say probably 30 years ago, easily 30 years.
Yeah.
And we're both in love with working with people and helping people get better. And we were chatting a few days ago about the pandemic and our ideas of how to help people with stress. And I thought this would be a great thing to share. So, Sue, welcome. It's good to
Thank you.
have you.
This is
Yeah.
really
So,
fun. Glad to be here
yeah.
with you.
Yeah. So you practice in Eastern Washington.
I do, yeah, Winthrop, but now with telehealth, I'm kind of throughout Washington with telehealth, but locally in Winthrop, Washington.
One of the blessings of the pandemic, at first it didn't seem
Hmm.
like that cool of a thing, but now the world seems smaller. We can just connect. Well, we've connected more actually through the pandemic.
Yeah, we
And I,
really have.
and I send people to you because
It,
we're so busy here. It's like, well, there's a good colleague, really good at what she does, and just all you have to do is push buttons. And the way insurance works, people are just able to just see you as long as you're in Washington State, they're
mhm.
in Washington State. So
Right, right. Yeah,
yeah, so we survived the pandemic, huh? We did.
we did and we are. Yes. Yeah, it's been quite a ride for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was like for you, but I've learned a few things like what what happened. Like everybody's, well, there's a few things I've learned, like everybody's experience is different.
Very.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
And there are people that were more afraid, people less afraid, people that were really traumatized, people who were less traumatized, people lost jobs. They were stuck at home. So any conflict in their families it could get worse. Children
Yeah.
were stuck at home. Children didn't have school. We
Hmm.
then had issues with what's going on in the world, just not pandemic stuff, but politics and differences of opinion and
Hmm.
government mandates. And yeah, it's been really quite a journey. What
Yeah.
has it been like for you over there? Like over here, we're in the more urban area, but what was it
Hmm.
like out there? How did pandemic affect you in your practice?
Yeah, in my practice and just over here, we're more rural, of course. So we always just say we naturally socially distance, but because there's a lot of space here. But of course, it impacted a lot of the community events, a lot of there's a lot of nonprofits over here. So their fundraisers were, closed down in terms of, gathering. There's a lot of community gathering here. And so, of course, it impacted in some ways, in a good way, it's a touristy place. So you got a lot of people who could not maybe go international or do a lot of long distance from the west side. Um, we call you guys the west side or the coast. Um,
Yeah.
coming over here because they could. So I don't know. It definitely restaurants, things like that were really impacted because they had to close down or have limited accessibility. So you saw a lot of creative, just like over there, probably a lot of creativity in terms of picking up your food, um, different things like that in that area. But and then people, being laid off jobs, um, things closing down. It actually in my business increased because all of a sudden I went from kind of this local therapist in a smaller area to being a telehealth therapist online, which opened up the whole state, which adjusting to online. I'd been doing online because I'd had people here who moved away and they were in the States. So we accommodated that with telehealth still. So, but
Wow.
yeah. So I was really grateful to that, to have already had a telehealth platform going. But
Yeah, a couple of years there were forest fires, and you were working with people with that trauma, and
Mhm.
probably maybe as a community you were already, maybe over there people were already used to addressing something as a community, maybe.
I think so. I think, yeah, and kind of on a personal level, it's I've already been the traumatized working with the traumatized in terms of I was going through the evacuations or the fire at the same time my clients were, and we were meeting in my office without electricity. Why we didn't have electricity for 10 days, but we're still in the valley. And so you do go through it. So same with the pandemic, it's like, okay, this is a familiar feeling. I'm in it personally, but in it with the community. So, and having been through the fires, there is a very resilient community. It's again, smaller town, a lot of service oriented nonprofits again, who just stepped up to the plate to try to meet needs and, um, fill the gaps that
Yeah.
happened.
Boy, the phrase "the traumatized," helping the traumatized. I've always
Yeah,
believed that therapists aren't perfect. We have problems. In fact, we may have had problems that led us to solutions, which then led us to want to bring those solutions to other people. But yeah, it is
correct.
kind of like the frontline worker who's experiencing similar events, but we have tools, and it seems, I don't know about you, but I feel a little bit comforted knowing I'm doing something useful to help other people during the difficult time. Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
like, well, I can be of service, and the phone was
Hmm.
ringing off the hook, and there were many people wanting help, and I never really had to ever triage, like, okay, what's most important, and I developed a waiting list, and then
Hmm.
um, am I really, really worth waiting for with certain things? And I realized not really. So I'd say, certain things I worked with, then it would maybe be worth the wait.
Right.
But
Yeah.
people were saying, like, over here, they were saying we called 50 people. And I kind of believe them. It was
Yeah.
kind of crazy. And now I think things are settled down. It almost seems like now that there's 2 years of this, people are starting to see things different. Like at the very
Hmm.
beginning, it was different. I was thinking about when this all happened. I will confess, I went and bought separate towels, color coded towels, just so that we couldn't contaminate each other. And
Right.
separate, remember when we're like, frozen food could be contaminated
I
because the
know. I
COVID
know.
virus could live 2 years. So I
Yes.
pictured
Yes.
myself opening it up and it's alive again. But I
Yeah.
knew that, it was 1% of the population, but it was just very random. You just didn't
Hmm.
know who it was going to miss. And then I had people really, really scared, which bless their hearts, they were really, really scared. Then I had other people that were more scared of governments taking control and losing
Hmm.
personal freedoms in the midst of this panic state.
Right.
And yeah, I think our perspectives have changed. I mean, ours. I mean, over time, we get more information. And
Hmm.
I just think it's something that happens with growth. Even just any kind of mental health, it's like how we see things changes things.
Right. Yeah. I've definitely seen those changes in perspectives or comfort level. Uh, and some I've seen kind of just stay consistent as well. Just being very um, cautious, understandably. And uh, I think, for me, just really respecting everybody's choice around what they want to do with the pandemic's been really important. And kind of training that I've done in couples work in terms of differentiation and really being able to hold your own sense of self while someone else has a very, very different perspective has really, I've used that for myself as well to just hold my space with what I'm, my comfort level and choices, and then really respect everybody else's as well. And in my own personal life, as well as, kind of in just the work I'm doing. And
Yeah, that's
so,
a gift. I mean, it's great that you put in the couples context that to get along as a couple, each person's going to have their own viewpoint, and to respect that viewpoint and to
Yeah.
tolerate the viewpoint. For the most
Hmm.
part, I think couples share the same opinion on things. But um, yeah, if there's a gift that maybe the pandemic can give us is to tolerate and to maybe appreciate everybody's different perspective while
Right.
maintaining your own value system, your own sense of what you want and choice,
Hmm.
you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, like in spring, well, you actually a year ago, you told me about ART therapy,
Hmm.
art therapy, but it's not
Right.
like, watercolors, but this is accelerated resolution therapy,
Yeah.
ART. And
Hmm.
um, I pursued it. I looked at it. I almost was going to go get some training, but I waited. And then I'm kind of glad I waited because then it came to Bellingham, Washington, in which case
Hmm.
we got to reconnect. I
Yeah.
took the training and it's like, wow, wow. And I've been doing this a long time as you have, and it's so
Hmm.
fun to learn something new, which
Yep.
has roots in other therapies. It seems so effective. So tell me about it. Like, how did you get into art or ART therapy?
Yeah. Great question. Um, well, it was kind of, I was, I've been doing trauma work for a while. And when I first started doing that, I was kind of my tool belt was cognitive behavioral therapy, um, some attachment work and things. But I knew I needed an experiential approach, one that was neuroscience based. There's been just so much that's happened in the field with that, and brain based, body based. And when I had done some other trainings and was using that. Um, but I had a client who, um, and I just want to be careful with privacy and stuff, but just felt that this person was very stuck and I didn't have the tools I needed, it felt like. And I know it's collaborative. So I began looking at EMDR. That's the kind of around a long time. I've heard really good things about it, and I think it's a very good therapy from what I hear. And as I was looking at it and in researching it, I uh, heard about ART in the process. I was asking questions on Facebook or something, I think, about it, and somebody said, "Hey, if you're looking at EMDR, look at accelerated resolution therapy," and they described it as EMDR on steroids. And since I hadn't taken in either, I thought, well, okay. So then I thought I'll do my research, and I connected with the organization that was providing training, and I said, "Can I talk to can you give me a name of a therapist or someone I can talk to who does this, so I can get some firsthand knowledge?" And they said, "Well, why don't you talk to Lainey Rosenzweig, the developer of this? She loves to talk about it." So I called her and we talked for an hour, and she was very enthusiastic, of course. um, she, it already made sense to me from what I had heard about it, and just how it seemed to help the brain process trauma in a safe way, kind of like a dream language in a way that we do naturally anyway
Mhm.
sleeping, when we're sleeping. So it convinced me enough to just jump in and dive in. And so I actually took my training down in Arizona because there wasn't anything local at that point. This started on the East Coast. So I was glad Arizona was closer, and
Mhm.
went down there, took the 3-day training, and it equipped me enough to jump right into it when I got back to my office. And I started um, seeing these shifts that were very rapid. Um, the person that I was kind of experiencing a sense of stuckness began having movement in the work we were doing and getting past things that just were very hard to address. And so I just loved it. And then so I took that in the fall of 2019. 2020 hit, and I was ready to get because you can get advanced training after that, and I was ready for the advanced training, and of course everything shut down. um, so I just kind of kept doing, uh, and the basic is very solid in what I learned, and what it you can apply with it. But then in the fall of 2020, fall of 2020, they opened up in Florida. And Florida had stayed open since July, but they opened up a advanced training down there. So I went ahead and grabbed my airline miles and went down to Florida and got the advanced training. So have really enjoyed that. The whole therapy is fun. It's a fun therapy, I think.
That's my experience. I got some huge shifts, and it's very guided. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I think clients feel on the spot of like, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to do?
Right.
And it could go any direction, but this seems to be very guided, like where you're going as a therapist. Mm-hmm. And you, as a client, you may not know exactly where you're going, but if you've done it once, then you kind of know where it's going to end. It's accelerated resolution, and it seems like the process helps you reprocess something so that you're not seeing things the same way. Like to the requirements, you have to have a visual image of the trauma.
Yeah, it works mainly with images of the trauma. Not everybody can see images though. So I have seen where, and I haven't personally done this, but I've heard of other therapists do that, where they have their client kind of talk through the story, kind of like reading a book instead of seeing the images, like a movie of it. Yeah, so it has some flexibility there, but it primarily, the training is with images.
And it seems that the process of moving one's hand back and forth and then the eyes following that mimics REM sleep, like how we might process things anyway in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what they think. I don't know if that's been proven yet, but I think that's the theory behind it, that it mimics REM sleep, the rapid eye movement, the smooth pursuit eye movement. Also, I think there's been a lot of because EMDR is a more seasoned therapy out there, they've done a lot of research on the eye movements and how it does help. The way I describe it, or I think my understanding, it was kind of you bypass that frontal lobe, that rational brain that kind of keeps you stopped, and gets more into that limbic system and into that emotional system, which is where a lot of our trauma memories are going to be kind of stuck and residing in that emotional system, as well as our bodies, of course. But it helps your brain. It also, my understanding is soothing to your body. So you're regulating at the same time with the eye movements. At the same time you're watching something in your mind distressing, you've also got the eye movements that are regulating you.
Wow. And it does seem like, where else in life would we ever move our eyes like that except during sleep? Like people's eyes don't move that way. No. And it's associated with rapid eye movement stage of sleep, which seems to be dreaming. Mm-hmm. And so that's why with ART, there seems to be a creative process going on where you use other resources to help you reprocess things, like shifting colors, or anything helpful goes with it, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a dream. Anything's possible.
It doesn't have to make sense, but then when you walk away, you can remember everything that happened, but you just don't have the feelings, right? Is that the phrase?
Yeah, the phrase, keep the knowledge, lose the pain, keep the facts, lose the pain. So you always know the factual parts of it. But like, for example, like if you think about something that's happened that isn't traumatic, you will tell the narrative of it. You'll tell the story of it. When it's traumatic, all those emotions can come rushing back, even with just a brief smell or something that just reminds you of that. So that shows us that it's kind of in a different part of the brain and this helps move it to that part of the brain that remembers the facts and remembers it, but it's not connected with all the emotional charge of it. We can say, oh, that was sad, that was bad, that was or that was a hard time, but we're not feeling it in the moment anymore. And that's the power of, I think, how ART harnesses the concept of memory reconsolidation, which is which I like the words that Art uses, is like we take the memory and it's instead of desensitized to it necessarily, which is what I understand EMDR helps you do well. You actually go from desensitizing, you desensitize, but you also positize it. That's a new word in that came through this, is to positize the memory. So when you think back, you're going to have more of that positive image happening, which images or memories kind of help equate to those sensations of more positive sensations.
Yeah, no, that's what's fascinating. Like in my process, I had Mr. Rogers there helping me, and I know he wasn't there,
Right.
but it turned it into a much more positive experience. It's not just putting something at neutral state, it seems to make it even better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so effective. Like there is research. I think a lot more needs to be done, but it's enough so that the Veterans Association VA is using this, right?
Yes, it is evidence-based. Yeah, I know there was a lot of research out of, I think, University of Florida. There's been good research with, of course, trauma veterans, as well as complicated grief. They did some research with hospice centers. So yeah, there is evidence. There's always can be more research,
Yeah,
especially.
so what I mean by that is it's good. It was well done. Like I read the study, but
Mhm.
it's like if we just get more and more, as more and more people start to use it and
Yes.
aspects with it. But
Mhm.
it seems to work mainly for traumas, right? And any kind of
Right.
negative experience where it feels like this word hypermnesia, like we have too much memory of it. It's like the opposite of
Mhm.
amnesia.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
know people were considering using cannabis or marijuana to try to treat veterans, with PTSD, and part of the mechanism there is it destroys part of the memory system, the
Mhm.
hippocampus. What
Mhm.
I like about this is very natural. It's something we would do naturally. And perhaps
Right.
some of us who experience trauma already did it. So
Mhm.
we consolidated it somewhat. And then those of us that didn't, we just got stuck. And we're doing
Mhm.
something more natural than maybe taking a medication
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I really like, because it is working with kind of how we're designed, how our brain works. And they've, kind of been discovering over the years how memory works. And so based on that, I can see why this works. That the understanding or the belief is like the kind of that memories in a protein between these two neurons. And, when we do bring this memory up in ART, they become unstable. It kind of comes out from between the neurons and it becomes unstable. We then massage it or work with it, and then it goes back in a positive, hopefully a positive memory. So you still have the facts in other, your brain, but that emotional memory is positized basically. And I think that metaphor I've heard in the trainings, and you heard it too, is it's like a file on your computer or a Word document. You open it up and you change it, and then you save it back. So it goes back, and it goes back in that changed uh, form, hopefully in a more positive way. And again, you keep the facts, lose the pain associated with it.
And it seems like in traditional therapy, just talking helped people feel better, just in general, just coming in and
Mm-hmm.
talking about it. And perhaps the therapist created an environment or gave them different ways to look at something.
Right.
This is much more like maybe steroids. It really does just help you in an hour and a half, maybe get
Mm-hmm.
what you need, and it's completed, it's processed instead of something that might be ongoing. Like I saw videos of people that had traumas that lasted multiple years or 2 years, um, and they tried other therapies, and then they do
Mm-hmm.
one session, and it's like
Yeah.
they're not the same. They go out and like one postal worker was bit by a dog and couldn't work, and she had
Mm-hmm.
tried desensitization types therapy, and she
Mm-hmm.
does one session, and then she's going on her route, pretending to do a route just because she couldn't believe that that fear was removed.
Yeah, it is. It is that kind of what just happened. I hear that quite a bit, and I think that it's so heartwarming and so wonderful to see. I've had the what I call them the one and done. Where people have been carrying this trauma for years. We do one session with it, we reprocess it, and they're done. They're like,
And they're
that's
happy. It seems
yeah, they're happy. They're like, oh, I tried to stir it up. I tried to get this feeling back, and it didn't come back. Or I often hear a lot, well, that it started and then it switched to the good scene. I started getting that sensation again, and then it just went away. It just switched. And
that is
it's
so
just that
cool.
the brain has a new place to go. It's really exciting to see um, and to experience it too.
Yeah, the way things are going, and this sounds negative, but the way things are going in the world and the challenges, I think we do need types of therapy that are very portable,
Mm-hmm.
concise, um, that are just much more effective, because people don't always have the resources to do therapy for well, I usually think in 4 week periods, but 4 months. This is just much more quicker. And
Yeah.
as maybe some of my viewers know, that I do EEG biofeedback, which is great. I love it. But it involves electricity. And so someday we may not have electricity. That sounds
Yeah.
catastrophic. But
Well, we've been here in the
well,
valley
yeah,
for
no, we can actually, yeah. And so this you could just use. I think there
yeah.
was even some talk at the training to help people with the war situation, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's
Yeah.
just great. And it's content free. Like sometimes you don't have to know all the details. For people that are so afraid, I don't even want to mention this because I just feel like I'd pass out. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have to mention it. They don't have to talk. There's a lot
Right.
of not talking with
Correct.
the
Yeah.
therapist, the client, and then the therapist has a script, but there's not a lot of talking there. A lot of it's like, oh, I don't know if it's the word magic, but the effectiveness is in the eye movements following. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of this is like if we do back and forth, back and forth, back and forth while thinking, or not thinking, but experiencing the experience, or notice that. That's what I loved about it. It was just so different. So anyway.
It is. It's very different, and it's very fun, interesting, flexible. Like you said, yeah, it does work with traumas. You can also it work with depression, anxieties, phobias, OCD. They use it augmenting, I think, with addictions.
Yeah,
They suggest you be if you're in treatment,
right.
but you can augment some of the treatment. So,
Yeah, and
um,
I did some sessions with you, and it was fun. And you
mhm.
did it right through the online teleconferencing. So you have
Yes,
the setup to do that, which I thought
yes,
was very interesting. It's like they thought of everything, where this thing goes across the screen so that my eyes would just go back and forth, and you of course could see if my eyes were moving effective enough. And yeah, so
yeah,
that's pretty
yeah.
cool.
It's a really great little platform for doing that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
very
so
grateful for that.
yeah, so shifting gears, like
Mhm.
what do you think, um like I'm predicting that we're going to have a lot of people with stress. And this sounds like I have the gift of discerning the obvious. But yeah, I think that, well, I'll share this. Right before the pandemic, I was reading a book called You Must Relax. In that book, that was written in the 1920s by uh, Dr. Jacobson. Oh, my poor memory. It'll come to me, but I think I want to say Edmund Jacobson. I'll get it corrected here. But he was like the founder of the progressive muscle relaxation. And he
Oh,
suggested that even back then, people were so stressed, they held on to so much tension. He suggested that they're having difficulty digesting their food, that
mm,
people were mistaking it as allergies because of the stress. I think it's
wow.
Edmund Jacobson. He was brilliant, but he said that in during the war years of World War II, that while there are about 300 men and women lost their lives
Mhm.
actually in combat in World War II, 2 million Americans died from heart attacks.
Wow. Wow.
And they guesstimate that 1 million was just from the stress of it all. And so I feel the need to think a little bit more globally, like what can we do to help people at a level like a mega level to help people really deal with stress. Like
Hmm.
almost everybody could qualify for that. And I think that there's this underlying stress that's risen without us
Yeah.
knowing it. Like I've learned watching videos on YouTube is not helpful to me.
No, especially if they're all about the
At the end of the world,
everything that's going on, the end of the world. Yeah.
I make this
Um,
joke with my wife. It's so funny. There's some like killer running, screaming, advertisement for the latest movie, which I'm not sure people really want to watch. But
hmm.
you see people screaming for their lives or the zombies, and I say, "Gosh, I'm really kind of tired of the news."
Right. I know. I know. That's funny.
Things aren't really good when you watch the news and then you watch horror. We don't watch horror movies, but adventure, and it's like, which
Yeah.
one is which?
Same storyline.
Yeah, and then there's polyvagal theory, which sounds so very
Hmm.
complex, but the idea is that we have a sympathetic nervous system, which is our
Hmm.
fight or flight, and then we have a parasympathetic, which is kind of like the rescuing system that calms ourselves down, rest and digest. And
Hmm.
there's two parts for the sympathetic. There's the ventral and
Or the parasympathetic. Yeah.
well, the ventral and then the other type of sympathetic. Oh, maybe there's three. But anyway, the idea is that passing out um, is part of the system. It's like played
The
possum.
dorsal vagal.
Yeah, dorsal vagal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that I was finding that I was getting more tired, like, and I never
Hmm.
really thought in terms of emotional tiredness.
Hmm.
I just,
Hmm.
but it seems that being tired, and I think people are kind of wore out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And again, kind of going back to the fires, that's what I experienced and what I saw. We had a summer of, or a few summers since then, but a few
Yeah.
summers of through the summer of heightened alert, hypervigilance. Is that going to be a fire start? What's that cloud look like? It was really strange. What was it? Oh, I think one summer after we had the fires, I was driving somewhere and it was the first really hot day. And my mind went to, does your car have a full tank of gas? Because we kept our tanks topped off. So if you needed to go, you had gas. And it was just a really quick response in me. But going back to that, being on that hypervigilance all the time, is your tank full? Do you have, is your go bag packed? What's that cloud? What's that? Is that smoke? Um, and then in the fall, I found so many, myself as well as clients, coming in going, I'm so exhausted. I just don't feel like doing anything. I'm so tired. I'm feeling down. It's like you go from that hypervigilance, and then the dorsal vagal just shuts you down into that hypo arousal where you just want to crash. And I think it is that parasympathetic nervous system putting in that, hey, you need to rest now, hormones stuff, or shut down. And so it was a real, and I think after the 2 years of pandemic, we're still kind of in this hyper with the next variant or whatever. But our system's also saying, shut down, calm down. Like you said, rest and digest, as well as it can just shut down. And that can look more like depression or frozen or burnt out, maybe.
Yeah, Eastern Washington's so beautiful. Like if anybody gets a
Mm-hmm.
chance to go to Winthrop or Twist, it's just like beautiful. Like it's not even like part of the state. You're used to it, but
Yeah.
then when I've been over there, we're not over there with the fires, but I was in Lake Chelan, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like it's creepy. It's
Mm-hmm.
creepy. Like you can't see anything. It's
Yeah.
just orange. It's
Right.
orange during the day and at night. It's orange. It's not like it's kind of weird. And then you
Yeah.
start to go, well, can I breathe? Is this safe for me to breathe? And then that's
Mm-hmm.
just the air. Like, what if you're near a fire? And so, like you were saying, the brain's very skilled at remembering something that's going to deal with safety. That's why phobias and fears are so easy to
Right.
remember because you have bad experience. So it's like you're going to have a full tank of gas so that you can try to flee, to
Mm-hmm.
get out of the way.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that part of the brain is really it's very sensitive in some ways. So, and I self-reflected and said, oh, I know what's happening, but usually not always. There's times where you just become irritable or have a shorter fuse or something, and you just maybe, oh, that's right, I was freaking out because this time last year or whatever, we were under evacuation or something was happening.
Yeah, yeah. We're getting rain a little bit out here, which is how far are you getting rain out there?
Nice. Uh, no, not for a while. We did have some. We've had like everybody, kind of a super rainy spring. So it's been beautiful. We've had, now we're into, I think since the 4th of July or so, we've had, since a little bit after that, we've had hot summer. So
Yeah,
yeah, so some rain would be real welcome right now.
yeah, yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
But things to calm our nervous systems down is like I have this
Mhm.
bear. Um,
Oh,
um, I'm about ready to be a grandparent.
yay.
And yeah, I know. I never thought of this ever. I thought, well, I'm a parent, so now I graduated to be a grandparent.
There you are.
Just about the time I lost my license to be a parent, or it expired.
Yeah.
Now I get to be a grandparent. But this was given to Nadine, my wife. But
Yeah.
probably our earliest memories of comfort are our moms.
Yeah.
We run to
Yeah.
mom. And I feel bad for
Mhm.
people where they might have not had that experience with their mom, but a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's mom. Um, and then when we start to grow up and individuate, like 2 years old, we grab a teddy bear,
Mhm.
we suck our thumb, we have some kind of blankie that we just really
Mhm.
hold on to. As adults, we can go towards things that aren't so healthy for us, like chips and eating food and drinking and drugging and sexing and spending. And Amazon probably made some money during the pandemic. You think?
You think?
People were
Yeah,
probably
shopping.
panicked. And
Yeah.
what, what was the toilet paper about? I still can't figure that out. Like,
I
and
bought into that. I went to Costco and got my 2 packages.
I know I did too. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that's
Yeah,
as if
I
that's the
know.
worst thing that could happen to us. What about food? But
I know, I know. I
people
think
were,
what
yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say during the pandemic, I think there's a YouTuber. She's Bandana Grandma, or Grandma Bandana Grandma, or something like that. And I found her, and she was so. It's like, having that comforting mom or grandma who's seen life, who's kind of been around for us. She goes, if you run out of toilet paper, it's not the end of the world. Let me show you. You take the, like, you should have cloth diapers. You know, she took cloths and cut them and put them in a little bag, and she was just put a little water. I mean, I don't want to get too personal here, but it was just like, oh my gosh, it's not the end of the world. You're right. But
That's
just
what
hearing her
people,
soothing tone and her grandma-ish.
maybe we can provide the link in the description there.
Yeah.
Because we did eventually turn to soothing
Mm-hmm.
videos, and there was boy, I'm not remembering the actor's name, but he was on The Office who did
Oh, yeah, the positive, the good
John.
news. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we started to turn to Andre Rieu, the Dutch conductor who does beautiful music. We're just
Mm.
weeping and crying. It was so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And then
Yeah.
we started looking at homestead videos, people
Mm-hmm.
going back to the
Mm-hmm.
earth, and
Yeah.
how to grow vegetables and make things. And so, we moved away, at least us as a family, away from the trauma of
Mm-hmm.
seeing the end of the world versus pulling inward and praying more and saying, the end. I heard someone say the end of the world is when I die.
Yeah.
That's the end of my world. So what am I doing waiting for something out there, rather
Mm-hmm.
than enjoy life? And we probably picked up a few extra hobbies,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it
And
probably, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know I tuned into some of your Tuesday, what did you
Tuesday
call
night
them?
comfort. Yeah.
Comfort. Yes, I tuned into those, which was just probably because I know you too. It was just really comforting to hear
Well,
your
that was
voice
good.
and hear those conversations. And it was, you felt connected.
Yeah, no, that was kind of fun to do
Mm-hmm.
those. I would just process almost myself what was going on the last week. Now, I thought
Mm-hmm.
about them even today, like, are they relevant? We might go through and take some of the good pieces out, but it's so different now. We've
Yeah.
evolved, and I think of our grandparents who went through the Great Depression, went through
Mm-hmm.
wars. My
Right.
parents, were both Depression babies, born in
Mm-hmm.
the 1930s, 5 and 36. And
Mm-hmm.
they just went through hardship. And I think this is our time to go through hardship to strengthen us, to make us wake up from where we are, to go, what do I want from life? And what's
Mm-hmm.
important to me? What's not important? And I know a lot of people kind of like working from home. They go, why was I traveling an hour and then an hour back when I could get all my
Right.
work done at home? So
Yeah.
there are some good things from this.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So, well,
Yeah.
we're about ready to wind down here. Do you have any
Okay.
final closing ideas of helping? Well, we'll put information on how to help people find you if they're interested in ART therapy or talk therapy and things like that. Do you do
Okay.
coaching as well? Like, do you coach for people that are over state lines and as well?
Um, I have I have I'm a certified coach as well. I've been primarily focused on the counseling practice, but I for some people I found even in the counseling I do what I call the coach approach, depending on what people need. So, but if they were out of state, which I'm not licensed to work in another, you know, if I wasn't in their state, so but then it would be primarily coaching.
Yeah,
More
that's
so
our
than
situation. We have people who are from New York and all over, and so
Mhm.
I've been doing coaching where it's a different thing than counseling, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
ART, I think, is within the realm of counseling.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. If we're processing traumas and things
yeah,
like that. Yeah. I think there's parts of ART that you could use in a coaching realm where you're just maybe teaching someone to move their eyes just to soothe themselves. That in and of itself can be soothing and
oh yeah.
kind of like a grounding exercise, a way to just calm your emotion. I know I use it.
That is a nice takeaway. Yeah, after
Mm-hmm.
experiencing it, you realize there are things I've been stressed out about things, and I just move my eyes back and forth and
Mm-hmm.
notice what I notice in my body. and take
Right.
deep breaths. And it's like, well, this is helping anyway. And I think that's the
Mhm.
very first thing you do anyway when you get into it in your
Yeah.
session. So, well,
Yeah.
it's been a delight. Boy,
Yeah.
I'm
Thanks for
really
this, Erik.
excited about to see you in this way and to share you with my viewers. I guess it sounds funny to say my viewers, but
Well,
viewers. So
yeah. Well, thanks
anyway,
for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I wish you well, and you stay safe out there in Eastern Washington. And
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a new fire start in Chelan recently, or Chelan area. So,
oh boy, okay, well, you
yeah.
stay safe, and
Okay.
hope to see you later.
Okay. Thanks, Erik.
Bye bye.
Bye.